What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Bogey Proof. Got myself, Matt, and Mikey on the line tonight to do a little bit of a recap of the in-between major season, we'll call it, on the PGA Tour between the Masters and the PGA Championship coming up in about a week here at Southern Hills in Oklahoma. But a lot happened in that, in between periods, some big names kind of popping out and grabbing some wins on the PGA Tour. And it's worth kind of running through what goes on, what those wins mean for those players, and kind of put a cap on this segment of the season before we dive back into another major week on the PGA Tour. But before we do that, Michael, where are you calling from and what are we sipping on tonight?
Yeah, here in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Just sipping on a little water here. Nothing exciting. Here at the beginning of May, got back from vacation last week. Was down the Low Country, South Carolina, Charleston, Savannah, Georgia area, enjoying the humidity. Only played one round of golf down there, so it was more of a culinary tour. Got to the beach, just enjoyed kind of the scenery more than anything else. But excited to chat. Been far too long. I know we've been a little lackadaisical on recording and getting things out and posting and whatever, but excited for kind of hit the ground running here in the summer and a few more majors on the docket. But where are you coming from, Mr. Fontaine? You got a cocktail with you? What do you got going on?
We're in West Hartford and no cocktails tonight. So we're recording here on a Tuesday. Busy weekend last weekend, a busy weekend coming up. We're just trying to keep the weekdays clean, and playoff hockey's going on too. So
I got the Bruins on in the background right now. So
yeah, not great tonight to start. So maybe this turns into a cocktail episode, but right now we're gonna try to stick to water, keep it clean. It's a Tuesday. Work's been busy lately. I don't need to be making that any harder for myself than it already is. So we're keeping it clean. And
you're saying you're not planning on being all banged up on Wednesday morning at the office?
No, I'm gonna try to avoid that. We are, we're just trying to be an adult here. It's we're 26. We're not 22 anymore. Just showing in half hungover, like 3 days a week in the office and just figuring it out. We gotta get some rest. The Whoop has been yelling at me when I drink.
A smart man once told me that it's a life skill to show up to work and be productive hungover. So when you think that you're too good for that, just maybe try it out one time. Hold yourself accountable to that standard.
Do.
Yeah. So
I used to be able to figure it out, but I don't know. I'm gonna have to give it a try. Maybe I'm sure these as the weather gets nicer up here in New England, maybe some cookouts. Some sneaky Tuesday, Wednesdays. You go out to dinner and you go sit on a patio somewhere and you just kind of get after it. Maybe we'll test it. We'll test it over the summer at some point, I'm sure. But for now, we're gonna hold off.
I mean, it's honestly, on a personal note, it's probably been a good 2 years since I've gone to work or class or whatever remotely hungover.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm showing my age there, but I just, outside of maybe having like 3 drinks on a podcast and finishing it off and having like to be at work at 8, that's the only scenario we've maybe hit.
I was gonna say, I think the worst it's gone is like, I have, a whiskey or 2 on the podcast and then like have a third one that I certainly don't need, but like, and then you go to bed a little later than you probably should and you wake up a little tired, but after you get the coffee in you, you're fine anyway. So yeah, I mean, maybe that's a good thing. I think we're maturing, something like that. Maybe we'll call it. But yeah, without further ado though, we got to recap. We had RBC Heritage, Zurich, Wells Fargo, Mexico Open in there, and they're playing the AT&T Byron Nelson this week at Craig Ranch in right outside Dallas. I forget where it was.
Yeah, McKinney. Yep.
McKinney. So a lot went on. We had RBC Heritage. We had Jordan Spieth winning on Easter. Like next year, Easter falls at Augusta, and I think last time he won at Augusta was on Easter too. I saw some crazy Easter stats going out there with him.
Yeah, new father, tons of perspective.
Lots of perspective flowing. Gets it done in a playoff over Cantlay, who I feel like has been all around it this year, but hasn't won. I feel like he lost in another playoff earlier in the year, maybe I'm wrong, but hasn't really won this year. He's just racking up top 10s, top 5s, whatever it may be. Obviously goes on to win at the Zurich the week after. But before we get into that, what do you got on Jordan? I think in our preview pod for this section of the PGA Tour, both of us were kind of poking around at him and being like, what are we going to get? Because Augusta wasn't good. So what are we going to get out of him? Is he going to show some form and play the majors well like he did last year? Or are we in another 2019 situation where he's just out in the wilderness?
He I think he gives all people hope that like you can play elite level golf with like a funky golf swing and a funky pre-shot routine. And I just think he amazes me because somewhere in that craziness of pre-shot routine with Greller and whatever thing he's doing with his golf swing pre-shot, like somewhere he turns off his brain and like hits good golf shots
Yeah.
and makes a bunch of birdies and throws lasers at the pins. Like I don't think we've even seen. I mean, his short game is exceptional, but I don't think we haven't seen like 2015 U.S. Open, almost winning the PGA Masters level putting from him.
Yeah.
So I just think it confuses the hell out of me. But his
Yeah.
iron play is at times absolutely spectacular. Short game's great. Like he's a little bit of a toss up for me. But like, would I be surprised if he wins? I don't know if he wins the U.S. Open just because he doesn't drive it straight enough, and he's probably
Yeah.
gouging it out of the rough. But like, do I expect him to be in one of the last groups at the Open this year? Probably, right? Like
Yeah.
he throws me off, but I wouldn't be surprised if he wins another time this year or wins a major. I don't know what
Yeah.
you're thinking, but
Yeah, he's just such a in this era too, especially he just stands out amongst the other great players that seem like robots, like he's just so not like he is, but it doesn't look like it, with all the pre-shot routine and the way he talks through every shot. You always get him mic'd up with growlers and everything like that. You're like, how does this guy like turn all that off and make a golf swing, like you're saying, and like actually hit these shots that are just so elite? It's really impressive. And I think it shows like even at times when it's not going well, like the fact that he's able to hit some shots here and there through that, like it just shows his mindset of like when he finds something, like his mindset is already like he already has that mental game. Like even though he doesn't execute all the shots all the time, right? Like he has these kind of dips and it's a roller coaster, or whatever. He's able to stay like incredibly present through all of that. And like so when he does actually start putting shots together, he doesn't like be like it doesn't like scare him into like holy shit, look, where'd this come from? Like there's so many times where like when you're struggling and you kind of are on that way back towards the top of playing well, like you all of a sudden play really well for 6 holes. You're like, holy shit, it's all working. What the fuck's going on? And then you kind of fall back down and then you get it back up, whatever. He seems like when he gets it going a little bit, it like doesn't, he just is able to build on it and keep it going in the right direction once he does get it, like, or when he makes a random double or makes a super bad swing with the driver, it doesn't trickle over for him that often. Like it just seems like he just stays super present, which is like, even though it hasn't been consistent this year or really great this year at all, and then he goes out and wins at the Heritage, like it just, I'm always going to keep an eye on him in the majors as long as the course fits him. Like you said, I don't love Brookline for him because they're going to make the rough super long and doesn't drive it consistently enough to be able to, like not make just annoying doubles and not, he's going to be playing so much defense that week. I don't think that's the right fit for him. But even a place like Southern Hills seems like it's a really creative spot for the iron play, which he loves. Obviously Augusta and everything like that, he's always loved because of that creativity aspect of it. And like you said, the Open's going to be awesome for him. So I do expect him to play well in at least one of them, probably two of the three majors going forward this year, just because he just seems to have the right attitude to keep himself present and like positive, even when he has weeks where he hits it like shit, because the swing is weird. The pre-shot routine's weird. He's got a lot going on there. He's working through shit, but he's able to somehow work on all that and keep a really like simple mentality somehow when it comes to actually pulling the trigger on stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of cloudiness leading into the shot,
Yeah.
but once he's like over it and ready to pull it back and hit like and press go, like seems to just kind of turn it off, make a swing and move on. He's always been an anomaly in a roller coaster, but it's like even more now with this pre-shot routine stuff. But I agree. I think get the putter going a little bit and just have with the iron, even because he's been driving it pretty consistent with how he always does. The irons just every once in a while he'll figure something out with them and just make them elite, and then the putter goes and he goes. So hoping for him to have a good, late spring into the summer here.
Yeah, and I just think too, we see, I don't know, he seems with that cloudiness kind of sometimes makes me feel like he's maybe not ready, or he's like a little bit kind of preoccupied with other things going on. But he definitely seems like every time we've gotten him at a tournament and he's up by the lead, like I don't want to say killer instinct, but like we've seen him get it done on Sunday a little bit
Yeah.
more and shoot a low score. Um, and like when he needs to, kind of get it done under pressure, which was fun to see. And him and JT, it looked like we're out at Southern Hills this week, doing some prep. So I like all the things I'm seeing from him, as far as like kind of getting back to that motion, right? Buddy's trip to Southern Hills, low practice, now playing the week before, going to get a little, who knows, like he might miss the cut this week at Byron Nelson. I don't think he will, being in Texas. Like I would expect him to play well. He's played well there when he was like 16. Not the same golf course, but right, like, but even if he doesn't play great this week, like I don't think that pulls him out of being one of the favorites at the
Yeah,
PGA,
I
right?
agree. I don't think that totally bothers him at all. Yeah, it's impressive. He just seems to have a good. He does, and probably part of it is this mentality that we're talking about. But like to your point, like whenever he is up there on the leaderboard, he doesn't really shy away from anything or like below stuff, right? Like especially the last few years, he's only been like on that top page of the leaderboard maybe a handful of times, and he's gotten a couple wins out of it. It's
Yeah,
not like he's a guy like he's like the polar opposite of a guy like Rom, right? Like
yeah,
for so many reasons, but like Rom seems to be on the top page of the leaderboard every time he tees it up, and he only gets it done like call it like a 6% rate or something like that. Like I don't have the numbers, but and I know these numbers aren't right for Jordan either, but it feels like if you get him within 3 of the lead going into the weekend, he feels like he's at like a 40% clip versus like it just there's something about it. And maybe that's just because you pay more attention to it when it's him or whatever. But either way, he's exciting, and I think that win all it does is just gives him a little bit of confidence. And I feel like with the way, he's got such good perspective and like good mentality, all he needs is a little bit of confidence, a couple of bounces to go his way, get some momentum going in the right direction, and he can, put it together a couple months stretch here where he can pick off some big tournaments because he doesn't shy away from big moments at all. So I really enjoyed Jordan just, showing some life again, because it was a little sketchy to start this year compared to how we ended last year. So it's always
yeah.
good to see him kind of when he's playing good, it's golf is a better sport to watch. So always good having him in the mix. And then the next week we go to New Orleans, I believe, and the Zurich. We get Cantlay and Xander getting it done.
Very different than Jordan Spieth.
Very different, and both of them completely different in like pretty much every aspect and the way Jordan Spieth gets it done. But yeah, I mean the Zurich is always an interesting one. I mean the walk-up music's cringy, but I appreciate them doing something different. I do like the different formats. You get these guys going. You get some crazy low numbers Saturday to kind of reshuffle that leaderboard after the Thursday, Friday.
Mhm.
And it's just the one thing I definitely wanted to get your thoughts on with between Xander and Cantlay. Like Cantlay now racking up wins, which is awesome to see. I think he's going to be a stud on Ryder Cups, Presidents Cups, all that stuff for the U.S. for a long time coming. But Xander is interesting. I think that's now his fourth PGA Tour win. Maybe third, but I think fourth. So we have one team event. We have the Tour Championship, which is 45 players or whatever it is, 50 players.
Mhm.
Back before it was the FedEx Cup and the Tour Championship at the same time. We got the Century Tournament of Champions, which is a super small field. And then I think the other one was like an HSBC WGC thing over in China or whatever. And then he
Mhm.
wins Olympic gold. So like he's been talked about a lot in the last couple of years, especially of being this like all these top tens, top fives and majors. When's he going to break through and start winning golf tournaments? And he seems to only win like really weird events, like whether like smaller fields, team events, whatever you want to call it. Is there something there where it's like, I mean, the game is there because he's got a handful of top fives and top tens and majors over the last 5 years, but it's like, is there something there that holds him back? He had that close call with Hideki at Augusta last year. Like, what are
Mhm.
your thoughts on Xander? Like, is it like a Ricky kind of thing where he just can't get it done himself and just thrives in the weirder events or whatever? Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. I can't figure him out because I can't pick anything right with him when I do bank account plays with the gambling lab or whatever. Anytime I pick him, I miss. Like, I can't figure out when he's gonna like break through and just win some big events or whatever it is.
Yeah. he's a little odd for me. I have a hard time like picking at him because like when I think Ryder Cup, President's Cup, like I'd put him with anybody. Like I
Mhm.
think you make Xander Schauffele the partner of another player, like he's going to make that other person better. And like it would be, you'd be hard pressed to put someone else in his position and say that that team's stronger, right? Like he's just a tremendous piece, like just in that type of situation, tremendously solid all the way around. I think I don't know. I'm not going to call it an anomaly because there's been a tremendous amount of players on the PGA Tour that have had 25-year careers. Think of the Stuart Sinks of the world. You know, Freddie Couples, who, win at a relatively prolific rate, win 5-10 times on the PGA Tour, one major championship of players, whatever it may be. And like that's the type of career I think Xander Schauffele is probably going to end up having. I think he's probably like a 12 win, one major and a players type of situation. And
Mhm.
like that's borderline Hall of Fame. Like it's probably
Yeah.
not Hall of Fame, but it's like it's borderline Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So I think it's it's one of those cases, and it's similar to Rom. I mean, Rom's won on a greater clip than he has, but like it's just difficult to win out there. And
Yeah. It is.
I think Xander maybe doesn't have like the his best of his best might be a little lower than the top players in the world.
Yeah.
But with that being said, like he just doesn't play bad.
Yeah. I
So
was gonna say he brings like his B plus game. He brings 90%
everywhere.
of the time, and it's
Yeah.
like his A plus game doesn't quite get to John Rahm's A plus game or Rory's or DJ's A plus game or whatever.
Yeah.
Which
He
is
just
why he just racks up top tens all over the place.
yeah. So I think that's maybe it. I just think maybe we haven't seen the best from him, or his best is, top five, top 10 player in the world, but like not the best of the best. So, I really like Xander. Fun to watch him play with Patrick Cantley because they get it done kind of differently, but both, pick apart the golf course and, so I hope he wins. I hope he wins a major. I think he's maybe, one really good year away from breaking through. Where if he wins twice, maybe we see something kick him in the butt. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to pick at someone who's, like I said, I expect to, win
I
12,
know.
15 times in their PGA Tour career. But
Yeah, it's just recency bias too, where like because that career you just described is basically like surgery. Like
yeah,
that's a pretty damn good compare. Like I just feel like just like looking at his partner across the aisle, like Cantley has got 6 wins now, maybe or 7. Like, and I would think maybe not for the last 6 months because Cantley's been on a bit of a heater. But in the grand scheme, like I think Xander's a way better player than Cantley is. But like Cantley's just closed the door a couple more times than like in the last few months, and all of a sudden he's got way more wins. Like maybe Cantley cools off and his floor isn't as high as Xander's, and that's when Xander kind of surpasses him in like the career milestones. But it is just an interesting thing because I think there's like I think of a guy like Ricky Fowler too, who everyone's like, oh, he'll get it, don't worry about it. And now he's like hanging on, by a thread here with his PGA Tour status. So it's like, and I think he won 3 or 4 times. Like he got a players, but he never got the major. He never racked up wins outside of the players. He got the waste management once, and I don't know where else he ended up pick up any wins. But just I feel like Xander's at a point in his career where it's like, which way is this going to go? Are we gonna ride the ship and we're gonna turn it into the 12-win career with get that major, maybe get a players, whatever it is, or is the noise gonna get too loud that it's like, hey, you should be winning more, and then all of a sudden we pivot and lose it. I mean, his golf swing is a lot more technically sound than Ricky's was. Like Ricky used to lay that thing off at the top, which kind of gets a little dicey, leads to the inconsistencies that we're now seeing 10 years later. But I don't know. It's just I think Xander's a very
yeah,
interesting like case study you could do of
dude. We might have to figure out a way to put up a graphic of like their timeline right here because I kind of look. So Xander's been on tour like 5-6 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Ricky had his best of his best 5 years into his pro career when he, finished top 5 in 2014.
All those majors. Yep.
Right now, Ricky's got 5 wins on the PGA Tour. Xander's got 5 wins on the PGA Tour. Each really have one elite win, winning a President's Cup and a Tour Championship, and then tremendously solid finishes in major championships for like a good period of time.
Yeah, a good chunk of time.
So
we're at a pivotal point. Does he because I feel like I keep thinking of Sergio too when you laid those numbers out, because that's like Sergio was that guy too until he finally won the Players, and then he's probably
closer to Sergio though, just because Ricky Fowler never sustained himself in the top 10 like Xander has, where Sergio has.
Yeah. Interesting. I could do this stuff all night with just picking a guy and then just doing these deep dives on him. There's just so much because when you just surface level look at stats, like, oh, he only won once, or he won once and it was this or that. It's like whatever. When you look at the numbers of how long they stay in the world rankings, top 10, and where they finish in the FedEx Cup every year, and all the different Ryder Cups, Presidents Cups, all that shit they play on, like all those things matter too. So it's just interesting to see how it all shakes out. But and then Cantlay, I think we've talked enough about him the last few months with the summer he had last year, winning the FedEx Cup, the Memorial, the BMW, everything else. It seemed like he won. He played awesome at the Ryder Cup. Came out this year just racking up top 10s, and then losing to Jordan in the playoff, and then going and getting it done at the with Xander on his team at the Zurich. He's probably one of the best players in the world the last let's see, what we got, like 9 months maybe.
Yeah, year. Even
going back to last summer and everything. So he's been having a good year. He putts like a fucking demon, although it's painful to watch him play with how slow he is with the foot waggle and everything like that. But yeah, Cantlay is going to be, I think he's just super, super solid. Like no weaknesses in his game. He's fun to watch. So, but
also one gripe with the Zurich Classic is, and I know you probably can't do this. Should they really be able to play together? Should two top 7 players in the world be able to play together? Maybe not. I think maybe, and I don't know. And we haven't Kisner and Scott Brown won, right? Kisner's top 25 player at that point. Scott Brown's outside top 100. So it really doesn't matter, and it's more about the show. But
it's tough to get those names to come though if you force them to play with some guy that unless they have that relationship, like Scott Brown and Kiz are buddies, so it works perfectly. But if you're forcing guys to play with people, you're not going to get names to show up to that. So it's tough though, because I would have liked to. I think it'd be a lot more interesting if you had a little bit more of a level playing field and more teams had a chance. Because going into that week, it was you had Hovland and Morikawa together, the Australians playing together who won the year before, and then that team, and it's I like my chances with one of them, or even Horschel and Burns, right? 2 top 30 guys in the world. It was really, there's a lot of players playing, but there's really not, so it's interesting. But I do want to get into the Mexico Open and Jon Rahm, because I give him a lot of shit for the last year, as good as he's been playing, last 2 years, really, as good as he's been playing. I know he won a U.S. Open, but he wants to be a Hall of Fame player, and you got to win. Like you said, you got to get to that double-digit wins. You got to get to 15, 20 wins, whatever it is. Hopefully, I'm assuming, I think everybody's comfortable saying he's going to get at least one more major, probably more than that. But I feel like he wasted an 18-month period where he could have entered himself into the Rory DJ category of the last 20 years of guys that win 20 plus times, because you don't play that good of golf that many times in your life. You can get it for a week, you can get it for a couple weeks, 3, 4, 5 weeks a year. It seems like he put together 3, 4, 5 months of it and didn't get as much out of it. I know he did with you get rewarded for FedEx Cup ranking points. He still made $1 bazillion and stuff like that. But when you look back at the number of wins, he's going to look back at this 18 months and be really probably should have picked off maybe 1 or 2 more. Obviously the Memorial stinks. He won that tournament, but got the COVID, had to leave, whatever. But I don't know. And he finally kind of come full circle with this. He kind of basically did what I was expecting him to do in all the other tournaments he's played in the last 2 years of like, hey, I'm the best player on this golf course. Like, and it was, to the extreme at the Mexico Open. The field was not good, but like, go win the one you're supposed to win. Like the majors are tough to win. You got the best players in the world. They're players, even the Rivs, whatever. Like those big ones, they're harder to win because there's more good players. When you go play in everything else you play in throughout the year, like just go get a win. Like, you're not going to get to that. Like if you think of the last 20 years of golf, right? It's like Tiger, Phil, like DJ, Rory are like the guys, right? All have 20 plus PGA Tour wins. Everybody else is at, there's still Hall of Famers underneath there, but it's a tier below, like you have the JTs and the Jordans that are in like that 13, 14, 15 range of wins. Like I picture Rahm being more there, and he's only at like 6 wins. I know he's been on tour for like 3 or 4 less years than those guys probably, but I just feel like, they always, again, those guys, when they had stretches like this, they won 5 times. Like JT won 5 times in 2017. Jordan had 2015. DJ did it in 2020, and he did it at other times in his career. Rory in 2018 won like 3 or 4 events, just no majors. Like they seem to, when they put that high, when they get that to their A game level, right, and they put that 3-4 month stretch together, they rattle them off. And like John Rahm just didn't. I know he won the major, so he got something out of it. It's not like it was a complete waste, but I don't know. I just always, I can't get it out of my head that just like, damn, like how did you play so good and not get at least a couple more? But he finally goes down and gets it done at Mexico Open. Field stinks. Lost a lot of buzz from what the Mexico Open used to be in his WGC, but he adds another tally to the list. What are your thoughts on John Rahm winning the Mexico Open?
I mean, at the end of the day, yes, we're gonna measure people on major championships, WGC's players. That's kind of in that second level. But like, you got to fill your basket in some like elsewhere too. Like, you're not going to win 20 times just winning majors and those second level tournaments. I mean, we saw it, right? And I actually really like your analogy of like, he's got to win his home. He's kind of got to win. Like, I mean, obviously he's from Spain. This is the Mexico Open, but like, this is like his tournament. Like, you got to go out there and win it. I think we saw it. Steve Stricker won the John Deere like 3 years in a row, right? And has won it like 4 times overall. Like that's like, it's a shitty field, but like when he showed up in the early, late 2000s and early 2010s, like if he showed up, he was the favorite and we expected him to win. And you know what he did? He went out and won it.
And like when you look at a player's career, the initial level, right? Like there's certain times you're going to deep dive and do the quality of win, but your first check is number of wins, right? So like, is he going to be a Brooks Koepka? I mean, Brooks is tough because he got to 4 majors and that's like an elite number, but is he going to be like, 1 major and 10 wins guys? Like, I think we can all agree John Rahm is much more talented and a much better golfer than that number. But if he doesn't take advantage of, like, he's going to get another stretch like he had these last 2 years. At some point in the next 5 to 10 years, he's going to have another 6-month stretch where he's just a world beater. Like I really hope that he like goes and rattles off 2 majors and 3 other events like DJ and Rory do when they get their heaters. Like summer of 2014, Rory won 2 majors and 3 other events. He won like 5 and 7 starts like Scotty did the last 6 months. I know Scotty got a major and 4 of the wins. Like Scotty just leapfrogged Xander in like career wins because he took advantage of his 6-month stretch, like stuff like that, where it's like, that's what the all-time greats do. Like they don't waste their good golf. They go and get it when they're playing their golf. And Rahm, I think, has the talent to do that. I think he squandered some opportunity the last 18 months to just, again, they're not going to change his career expectation wins. But when you look back at the big picture, they're what's going to separate him from, the other greats of his era, like, because like in John Rahm's head, he's comparing himself to the Rorys, the DJs, the Phils, the Sergios.
As he should be.
Exactly. And as he should be. You're not going to, when you look at the resumes next to each other, like you got 15 more PGA Tour wins you got to go get. Never mind 3 of them being majors. And if you're going to play as great as you are and talented as you are, as good as you played the last 20, let's just call it 2 years, like we got 2 wins out of that. Like Cameron Champ won 2 times in the last 2 years. Like it's just interesting. And again, I could deep dive these guys like this like all the time. So we'll move off of Rom, but I think that there's just something there. It's the intangible of sport. I feel like that you can always, no matter what sport it is, you always talk about the it factor, the will to win, the whatever it is. Like certain guys just got it and certain guys don't, and he's got to put that talent and just be more efficient with it going forward if he wants to really get to that upper echelon and like be a generational player, because he absolutely is talented enough to do so and has proven he can play the golf to do so. You just got to turn that golf into wins at a more efficient rate than it's doing right now.
Yeah,
because you're going to have bad stretches. Like you're going to play like shit for a couple months. Happens.
Yeah, and it's just hard to it's hard to even fathom right, if John Rahm plays another 10 years in the PGA Tour and is good and but just doesn't get it done and ends up with a career with 12 or 15 wins and 2 major championships, that would be one of the all-time wasted careers, at least in my mind.
Exactly.
Right. So I think that's something that's interesting to think about. But I think that happens in every sport. I mean, there's players with Aaron Rodgers in football, right?
Yeah.
He's won 3 MVPs, but he's only won 1 Super Bowl. He's been there. He's been to the NFC Championship 5 times. He's only played the Super Bowl twice. I think, I don't know.
It's one of those what could have beens, because in 20 years when he's no longer just burning down the league every week, and then you go back and all you can base your opinion on is the stats, right? And you're going to see 1 Super Bowl for him, and what did Roethlisberger get, 2 or 3, or even a guy I don't know, pick another guy that got more than 1 Super Bowl, basically, right? And you're going to say we know Aaron Rodgers was a better football player than them and a better quarterback than they are. But in 20 years, when he's no longer on TV and being shown up doing so, all they're going to look at is how many Super Bowls you win, how many NFC championships, how many yards, MVPs, whatever. And his resume is not going to stack up to the true talent that he was. And I would it's an interesting thing that, Rahm's obviously still super young, so he could take this and all we're talking about and just win a major and
be irrelevant.
Yeah, he could win a major and 3 more events this year, and now he's right back on that elite level trajectory. But you never know. It's hard to win on the PGA Tour, so it's you don't want to waste the good golf when you got it going and it seems effortless. So it's interesting. But
what do you think about that golf course? I didn't watch a ton. I watched a little bit down the stretch. Did you?
It seemed pretty good, actually. I think it's hard when I didn't watch as much as I probably would have liked to, but it seemed like it had enough character to it and enough nuance where it made them hit different shots and stuff like that. And at this point, unless you're an elite level course, that's all I'm asking you to do is just show me some different shit and not the same lash of a driver and a wedge every hole. And it seemed like it had some different, little different stuff going on with it. So it was okay. I didn't watch enough to really make too strong of an opinion on it, but
yeah,
it seemed like it was good enough.
Yeah, that's kind of what I got too. I mean, I don't know. It's tough. I think even if it was an elite level course, I don't know if we get a super strong field there. It's just kind of random to have to go to Mexico for a week, not for the cash that they're used to playing for in the WGC and the extra points and all that. But let's move on. Speaking of kind of an average course, I didn't love the golf course here at TPC Potomac or Avenel Farm or whatever the fuck it's called. But I think there's so many other great golf courses up and down the East Coast that Wells Fargo could go to. Kind of turned out to be shitty weather all week long. But I did appreciate that the scores weren't too crazy. Max Homa won. I don't know what the final score was, but
it's nice to get them humbled a little bit every once in a while, make them go playing some shit and the number be 8 or 9 under or whatever, maybe 11, whatever it is. But because I think this week at Byron Nelson, we're going to see some in the 20s. But Max Homa again at done. I mean, that's now 3 wins in the last 18 months, going back to Riv the year before. Impressive. He's making a strong case and making a push towards a President's Cup team, which I think would be awesome for him. He's such a likable guy on, social media. Anytime he does an interview, it's always a good listen. Like, he just seems like a really awesome dude, and he can fucking golf his ball. He's been playing super, super solid this year. Won one of the fall events, and a bunch of good starts after that, and now goes out and gets it done in some tough conditions here too. I just, for him, he seems to have the game that you would think would translate to majors. He sometimes suffers with the putter, which obviously stands out, but his iron play is so good. He drives it good enough. You would think he'd be able to just put himself in such good spots where the putter isn't too stressed out, but just seems to be a little bit.
Though he made putts down the stretch.
No, he did this week for sure. So it's an interesting thing. I think that's the next step for him now that he's got 4 wins in the PGA Tour is, let's get the majors going. I think he's only made a couple cuts in the major in the last 3 years, and he's been playing super solid golf outside of it. So hopefully this summer he's able to take that next step, and because I think that win's got to put him in the top 25 in the world now, and comfortably, I would think.
Yeah, I would think so.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm always rooting for Max Homa. He seems like such an awesome dude. Even Rory kind of grinded it out, which is nice to see. You don't usually see that out of him. He played solid. Keegan Bradley been sneaking up on leaderboards this year. Something to keep an eye on, for the summer months, because he's a guy that's going to be playing in a lot of those kind of in between major tournaments, with the major schedule being once every month. He's a guy that to keep an eye on. I bet you he kind of picks one off. He's playing super, super solid golf this year. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets another, puts another win under his belt in the next, 4 months, whatever it is. But yeah, I'm always rooting for Max Homa, and the Wells Fargo, like you said, would love to see them do something cool with the golf location and not just, like, we don't need to play Quail Hollow every year. We're seeing it for the President's Cup this year. I think it comes back as a PGA in a couple of years too. Like, I've seen enough of it. Like, let's mix it up on the East Coast. Like you said, there's so many options. Let's do something different. And this time of year too, you risk the rain, but like, it's not too hot to play anywhere on the, what I'm saying? You're not
play anywhere.
Trying to dodge humidity. You can play anywhere on the East Coast this time of year. So something to consider if you're, the guy that schedules this shit. But
I mean, I guess it's tough because Atlanta they got their tour championship, but like, I don't know. Like, there's got to be a golf course between Charlotte, Atlanta, Nashville, Cincinnati, something like that we can get something a little bit different.
Pennsylvania,
even all the way up to DC. Like,
yeah,
as much as I didn't love, like, I don't know, like they used to play it like that Robert Trent Jones course out by Washington DC. At least had some like cool views of the water and like some, but yeah, I don't know. It's one of those ones that I think it'll stay at Quail Hollow because that's where the money is, right? Wells Fargo in Charlotte. Let's pick the premier club in Charlotte, and we're going to host it there. And it's a difficult test, so people continue to come back, right? And kind of test their games a bit. But yeah, I just want to. Max Homa's up to 29th in the world, ahead of Kevin Kisner, Jason Kokrak, Corey Connors, Kevin Na, Taylor Gooch, Patrick Reed. So, ahead of a nice little. I'm surprised Patrick Reed is still 35th in the world, to be perfectly honest, because he's struggling. I agree with the Keegan Bradley thought. I think we could see him break through. He's not only won a PGA championship before, he's also won a FedEx Cup event. Like, he can get it done. I think, and Homa was very, complimentary of Keegan Bradley's golf game in the presser afterwards, just saying like,
good, man.
He is a really good golfer, and he's been on tour for 10 plus years now. Right? I'm pretty sure he won the PGA in 2011 during his rookie year. So fun to see him kind of resurface a bit, has a chance to get towards the top 50, where he's 44th right now. So he'd be in the US Open. He'd be in the Open Championship right now. So that's good stuff. I think people I'm looking towards, I think I really like Harold Varner is going to win on the PGA Tour. I don't know when it's going to
Yeah.
be, but he's going to win.
Yep.
He's played too well, and he just like he plays tough golf courses well, right? Like he played Torrey Pines well. Harbortown I wouldn't say is a tough golf course, but it's a different golf course, right? And he's been
Mhm.
successful in both places. Um, so that I think Harold Varner gets it done this summer somewhere.
Yeah.
Um, and
I agree.
it might be in like a John Deere Classic or something like that, but he's going to get it done, I think.
I agree. He's been playing. He's another guy that's been all around the leaderboards this year. It seems like popping up and being on that first page. So expecting him to pick one off too. He's in that same, like you said, same boat as Keegan Bradley. Just he won in Saudi Arabia too, but I think he'll get one on the PGA Tour this year for sure. And then outside of that, I mean, the tour goes to Byron Nelson this week in Texas. Can't really recap it if it didn't happen yet. So, but it'll be interesting to see what goes on. The field's surprisingly strong, just being as close to Oklahoma as they are. So, be interesting to see if any of those big names kind of try to pick one off and build some momentum going into PGA. But outside of that, let's take a couple minutes and update like on our golf games. Like
Yeah.
now that we're definitely in golf season and we've probably played a handful of times or at least gotten the clubs out a little bit. How we doing? What's on the agenda in the next month or so? What are we looking forward to on the early spring schedule? What's going on with the golf game as you're wrapping up your
Yeah.
semester here?
Yeah. So, some exciting things on the horizon. First off, finally got my new clubs in
It's big.
about 3-4 weeks ago. Have played 2 rounds with them in like the 3 weeks that I've had them. So feeling them out, but I mean, being a Titleist club and a shaft that I've practiced with before, like pretty comfortable with them. They fucked up the grips, so I gotta like redo those at some point. But uh, trying to figure out kind of what playing a slightly different iron does. I think I was kind of chatting in the group message a little bit with you guys that like the short irons go a little they go a little higher and they go a little shorter, and then the long irons got a little gas in them. So trying to figure out kind of what that looks like and how it affects my game. And um, but I think all for the positive. I think just in the 2 rounds that I've played, I think I'm able to hit a couple shots that I could not hit before, just with putting these in the bag. So excited to see what that looks like, and excited to see what it looks like under pressure, because we all know we swing a little bit different when the money's on the line. So excited. Got like a decent stretch here actually coming up. So got off the wait list and playing a 2-day stroke play event in Chicago
There you go.
Saturday and Sunday this week. It's called the I-80 Amateur. The golf course I haven't played before, but they always would play like Illinois AM qualifiers and stuff like that. So it's like decent. I think it's like 6,800 yards, and at least has a track record of hosting tournaments. So I'm sure it'll be run relatively well. So um, excited to it's with this new amateur rule where you can pay someone $1,000 or it has to be under $1,000. So like they're paying out, I think the field's like 104, 120 guys, but right, like 50 of them have no business being there.
Yeah.
They're going to
50 of them
shoot
are
80.
playing just to get some rounds in or whatever and
Yeah,
playing a
like, and they're doing
tournament,
it just like you have to have like under a 5 handicap rate. So like there's some people that can't break 80. So I mean, there's probably like 60 or 70 guys playing for the cash. First place is $1,000, and if you come in like 15th, it's like 350. So
Oh,
like kind of like, and I mean the it's like $150 to get into it. So I mean, if you play well, like you're going to make a little money, you're going to get some good tournament rounds under your belt. So
absolutely.
I think it's like a win-win scenario. If I play poorly, like I'm going to learn from it. If I
Yeah,
play good, you put a little extra money in your pocket, you pay for some gas, you're ready to go. Um,
exactly.
but so doing that this weekend, and then just really trying to play more the next couple weeks, coming back to Massachusetts for a Mass Open qualifier, taking advantage of kind of the flexibility of just taking these 2 classes online, and not really having a full-time gig here, because that's going to quickly change. Um, and hopefully we get through that and we'll do that. But then also just signed up. We'll just put in an application for another 2-day tournament out there in Massachusetts, an invitational out by Boston.
There you
Um,
go.
So hoping to get into that. It was kind of funny. My little cousin Ryan, who's obviously a tremendous player, got like it's called the Hornblower, and it's an invitational
Yep.
out in Plymouth, right? Um, and like I've actually got invited to it before when I was playing good golf, like 3-4 years ago, and never. It's just kind of an weird day. It's like beginning of June, and
Yeah.
but he's playing, and I had told his mom, I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to be home, and I have nothing going on. I'll take him, whatever." So, and it would be a good excuse for me to go watch and do whatever. And I was like, well, I went on the website and I was like, oh, they're still taking applications. So
There you
I
go.
put in an application, sent in my resume, shot it back. We got a little inside gig. The director of golf at Plymouth played at Winnick in like he
Beautiful.
graduated in like 2008. So he sent me an email back. He goes, Golden Bear's at the top of the list. So I would expect to get into that field, but who knows? They could be a bunch of really good players that apply and I don't get in, and I'll just go watch. But expecting and kind of prepping to play in that as well. So
Nice. Love that. Awesome. That's good stuff. I mean, like you said, that I love the sounds of that invitation you're playing in this weekend, and like to be able to make some money, even if you come in like 15th or something like that. Like you said, put 2 decent rounds together, maybe get a little.
15th would be. I probably have to shoot even. I
Yeah.
probably have to shoot like 2 to 3 over for 2 days to shoot to.
Yeah.
So like it's. I mean, it's a good field. Last year the winner shot
Yeah.
like 7 under for 2 days. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But like you said, though, to have the option to get a little bit of kickback, and like worst case, you get 2 under-the-gun rounds with the new irons to just get some immediate feedback and like, be able to evaluate some data that's not just, hitting balls on the range or whatever. Like it's always good to get those in, especially early in the year like this. It's tough to find. Like I feel like golf schedules, like, maybe it's a New England thing, but I would assume it's similar in Chicago just given the climates, but like they're really light until about like June, right? And then once June comes around, it's like every other weekend you can find something, whether it's a member guest, a member, whatever, kind of shit going on. So it's nice to get one of those in May when it's like, hey, worst case, like you said, I get this experience this time of year especially with new irons coming in the bag. Like they take a long time to work in. It's awesome to be able to kind of get that under your belt and like start moving forward, like one way or the other, good or bad, like you're going to get something out of it and then be good to go.
So I kind of that's kind of my game plan for the next month. Now that you're at Indian Hill, now that you got the membership, what is kind of the normal weekend look like now that you're, a country club guy? And you're playing some premier golf and got your buddies, you're having some cocktails. Like what's going on? What's the normal week and like kind of weekend look like? And then what are you gearing up for?
Yeah. So the beauty of the membership, honestly, the biggest thing I think is the weeknight just going up after work, and maybe I only have an hour and a half of daylight left, but like it doesn't matter if I only play 6 holes because it's like I'm not shelling out $30 for 9 holes and having to wait on every shot. Like you can get out there and fly around. And I usually do get the full 9 in, even if it is that. But worst case, I play a couple balls and I play 6 holes and like get some on-course practice in. The range just opened up a couple of weeks ago, so I got that access now too. So it's like the biggest immediate impact is like things like that, where it's like, hey, like I would never do that after work last summer because I'm not like there's usually leagues at public courses, right, that go on, or it's like I go there and I'm waiting and I play 4 holes in 2 hours and I just paid $30 to play. It's like fuck that, So now, I mean, obviously I paid for the membership, right? But it feels different when you don't have to pay every time you actually go up there. So 6 holes doesn't matter, kind of thing. But yeah, so that's like step one of like I love that aspect. So I try to do that at least once a week, like if not twice, if the weather allows me to do so. I try to get up there twice a week, whether it's just a range session or play a couple balls and try some shots out on the course, whatever it may be. That's always good. And then the weekends there's a really good group of guys, a good group of players up there. Usually between like 3 to 6 groups we get up there on Saturday and Sunday mornings, get the early tee times from like 8 to 9. So it's like in that good window where you don't lose your whole day because you're playing golf, which is another benefit that you can never get public courses because those first hour or two are reserved for the guys that play there every weekend. And then by the time you go through golf now or whatever it is, it's like you're at 11:30 or 1:30 or whatever, and your whole day's shot. So I love the early rounds, and they play super straightforward games. Like it's all, you do an intermatch within your group, and then you do a group thing against the other groups, but it's all gross. There's no strokes, there's no nonsense. So it's like we're putting the ball in the hole. You're not worrying about like net, whatever. Like you're just it's just gross. So it like keeps competitive juices flowing. It's, and like there's everybody up there is like less than a 5 that plays in this group. So that's why you're able to do all gross stuff. So it's like, it's super competitive, and everybody's a good player, bunch of good guys out there too, easy to play with. And we have a good time. It's like they're golfers more, like they're not out there to like booze and stuff like that. Like they're there to play golf, and they have a couple beers on the back nine, and then have plenty afterwards in the bar or whatever it is. But first and foremost as a golf, and they're all competitive, so it's good environment to really work on the game and not just be out there slapping it around and like almost being a negative impact on like how you're actually playing if you're going to go play in a tournament. But it's all gearing up for the club championship, like the 3rd or 4th week of July, like towards the end of July there. That's the big one. And they have a bunch of members. They have one Memorial Day weekend. I'm not going to be able to do, but they have one every month where it's a 2-day thing and a 2-ball versus like a member guest. They have like those every month too, like on a Friday afternoon or whatever. Yeah. So members, I'm going to try to do the league. They do 2 sessions. I didn't do the first one, but I'm going to try to do the second session of the men's league. And then, between the men's league, the club champ, and then I'm going to try to do at least 1, if not 2 of the members. That's kind of the schedule for this summer for big ones. And then obviously as other things come up and I figure out more of like my work schedule and shit like that, probably try to play and probably try to do the Ramondi. That's always good up, another 2-day 2-ball. And then, maybe pick off something else along the way. But the priorities is the club champ, and try to do at least one of those members 2-day 2-balls on the weekends.
Yeah, you gotta put your statement on the club. First year there, you gotta make a run. That's exactly what it's all about.
It's all, and they do all stroke at theirs too, which is they do a 3-day stroke play for their club champ. So,
which I like your chances in a 3-day stroke.
Yeah.
You're a good match play player, but I think, it gives you a chance to shoot 2 solid ones, and then maybe if you get a low one in there, you got a good chance to win.
Yeah. So, gives you a chance to shoot 40 on a front 9 or something like that and get it back and like turn that into a 75 that day and still be in it, versus shooting 40 and match playing again, being 4 down and then you're out of holes and you're done,
Yeah.
So it is good. I mean, and it's a super competitive club. Like I said, there's like probably 20 guys there, 20, 30 guys there to like a sub-8 handicap, and most of them are a sub-5. So everybody's super competitive. There's no strokes given everywhere. It's just, it's good stuff. And it's so it's going to be, even if it's not tournament golf, it's all competitive, like in the right environment to be working on my game and hopefully getting better. And then hopefully by July, we've played enough at the course. We got it figured out. We've got our reps in, whatever it may be. We're ready to fire. So We'll see how it goes. Yeah,
no, excited. And I think we're both in line for some good golf this summer, and excited to play. But Matthew, always good chatting. Looking forward to kind of this last week of I don't know. It's kind of like it's an awkward stretch of golf, I think, on the PGA Tour. But it's been a good stretch thus far. And then once we get the PGA, I mean, we're downhill here. We're heading downhill. We got some full steam all the way through the Open Championship. So got some good stuff going on.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure.
All right. See you, buddy.
See you. Cheers.